Hi guys. That was odd. Alright, so hopefully everybody liked yesterday's video. So today we're going to go into the magical elements. So I just kind of get more familiar with that. So very interesting. So this is lesson 4, part 1. So it's going to be pretty good. Very good actually. Alright, so in this lesson we're going to continue following the Golden Dawn initiatic pattern by moving from the study of the magical element of earth to the study of the magical element of air. So we are slowly moving through, and I feel really short. There we go. So we are moving through all of the elements slowly, which is very good because we all need to learn to not control, but harness the energy of the elements. So, alright, you should start with the exercises below as soon as possible. If after working the exercises for Earth in the previous lesson, you are not satisfied with your understanding and feelings of unity with the element Earth, continue with those exercises for up to 2 more weeks. So, then do them as sporadically as you will. However, you should begin the exercises below immediately. So, if you guys do have this book, amazing, awesome, great. So, alright, the element of air has the qualities of being warm and moist. The following exercises will help you to become more aware of this element in your daily life. So we have exercise 1, which is actually raining. It's very windy. So, exercise 1, we're going to observe the things around us which have the combined qualities of warmth and moistness. I don't like that word. So remember, all of these elemental qualities are relative. Steam is a form of the element air. So is vaping. No, it doesn't say that, but I did. And it has much more moisture and warmth than does the vapor from dry ice. So however, that cold vapor from the dry ice also has the element of air within it. Pretty neat. I love dry ice. So see if you can determine the relative airy qualities as you experience them. Make a list of all of these things and record it in your diary. Do this exercise daily for 1 week. So just observing the element of air. Now exercise 2. Find a spot where you can be alone. Take with you an outdoor reclining lounger. Okay, the type that has nylon webbing around an aluminum frame, if you can find them anymore. So if you don't have one of these, a folding chair will suffice. So the idea here is to be elevated above the ground, which would be nice if we didn't have to use chairs, and have as much of the physical air surrounding your body as possible. Alright, so that makes more sense. So it's just literally like you're an airflow mattress. So remove all of your clothing and lie on the lounger or sit in the chair. If you cannot find a place where this is possible, wear as little clothing as you can. For men, a brief men's swimming suit is fine. For women, a tiny bikini will do. The object here is not nudity, but rather to allow as much air to touch your body as possible. So that's totally understandable. Very understandable. Very windy. Funny. It's very odd. So, alright, so what you will be doing is known as elemental pore breathing. So that's just letting all the elements, because our skin is the biggest, something to absorb, everything. So that's like when bathing in your ritual oils, or bathing in a specific type of oil, to say like frankincense, for overcoming or alleviating depression. That's when you put it in your bath water and it absorbs right into your skin. If you're sick, cut up oranges, put them in your bath water. Boom, you're sucking up the vitamin C. So, alright. So to do this, start off by doing the relaxation ritual. Well, that's the ball of energy coming up from the ground through your feet, kind of orangey yellow, all the way up to the top of your head. So, next, become very aware of your breath. Become aware of how slow in and out of this. Become aware of the slow in and out motion of the physical air. So, notice the way the air feels. As it comes in through the nose, it goes through the air pipe and into the lungs. sense or imagine the interchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide within the lungs, and feel the CO2, Latin air, as it goes out of the lungs, through the air pipe, and out the nose and mouth. So it's very, very simple exercises that connect us magically. So now imagine that your entire body is nothing but a large breathing apparatus, which it is. So imagine that every part of your body has only the function of breathing. Further, visualize that your skin is a part of this system. Literally, it is. Literally is. When you have a sunburn, really bad, you can tell. So as you physically breathe, imagine that every pore of your skin is also breathing. However, just as your lungs breathe in physical air, your pores should be breathing in elemental air. So feel it going in and out of you, cleansing and purifying your entire body. So that's actually a pretty good idea. Try this exercise at different times of the day, and if possible, at different locations. So air is the second most changeable of the elements, and you can experience it in many different ways. So do this exercise daily for at least a week. If you wish, you may do it for a longer period of time, but after a week, go on to the next exercise. So we have exercise 3. So this is it's interesting. It's very scientific from what I am gathering, from what I've gathered, totally scientific. So exercise 3, spend a period of up to 3 minutes, no more, once a day, imagining that you are the element air. Feel the lightness, the floating giddiness, the warmth and moistness of the air. Feel how physical things don't seem to matter, and learn the true meaning of the term airhead, or bubble-headed bleach blonde. That's just a nickname for me. So this is not said in jest, but in all seriousness. Become air. So do this exercise for a week only, no more. Do not repeat it. If repeating it is your desire, for at least a month. Do not repeat it more than once a week out of the month. So that is no more than 12 weeks per year, 1 week at a time. If you notice that you are having trouble finishing your normal work, halt this exercise immediately. In a day or two, you will be back to normal. Also, doing exercise 3 from the section on the element of earth from the previous lesson will help overcome the problem absorbing too much air. So, which is the cause of becoming an airhead or a bubble-headed bleach blonde. So exercise 4. So once you have learned how to become, or how to be air, without allowing it to take over your life, which I don't understand how it could, but it's air, so the next step is to take greater conscious control of the element of air. Take a moment and imagine yourself to be air. Bring the feeling from the last exercise into your consciousness. Next, hold your hands 9 to 12 inches apart, palms facing each other. Imagine a bottle or a box between your hands. So now as you exhale, visualize all of the air element, which is in you, going out with your breath and being trapped in the container between your hands. 3 to 5 breaths should be enough to fill it. So, then with 3 breaths, inhale it back into yourself and go back to your normal consciousness. Pretty interesting. A lot of stuff you can do with that. So the test. This test will allow you to see whether or not you really have become not only in harmony with the magical element of air, but also to see if you are able to control the element. So, the next time you feel heavy, bloated, slow, or lazy, form the container of air, as described in the previous exercise, in between your hands. Once the container of air has been formed, with one big inhalation, draw the contents of the container back into you. Within about 5 minutes, you should feel relaxed and refreshed. So, lighter and anxious to do those tasks you wish to do. Wow. The more I talk about air, the windier it becomes. But yes, that's actually a really good idea. I may need to do this. Okay, so the next time that you feel lightheaded, giddy, over silly, or unstable, etc., again, form the container of air. Next, visualize a large black hole in the physical air in front of you. when your container is filled to overflowing with your excess elemental air, throw the container into the black hole. That is, visualize that yourself tossing the container of elemental air into the black hole and see the hole sealing up after your container has entered it. So you should feel more grounded and balanced in a few minutes. But it may be necessary to repeat this black holing experiment 2 to 3 times, or feel totally normal. Makes sense. It does make sense. So, alright, now when you have passed both parts of this test to your satisfaction, you will have mastered the element of air. So, as I have said about elemental earth, if you do not succeed at such mastery within a few days or weeks, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing. So, with one or more of the magical elements, it may take only a few hours, days, or weeks to master. Other elements may take longer. But just remember, there is no race to succeed. So, that's very good. I love this. And do not give up. Just keep practicing, and without worrying about the results, eventually you will succeed. So, as have all who have diligently practiced. So, record the results of your experiments, good, bad, and indifferent, in your magical diary. So yes, this is very interesting stuff connecting with the element of air. I probably need to connect with it. And definitely connect with it. Alright, so that was for the element of air. Now we have part 2. Alright, so as I said before, anyone can do a ritual, but a ceremony really takes a group to perform properly. So, let's assume that you have gathered a group of people together, and all of you are studying via this course. Here, then, is a group ritual. So here's a healing ceremony within a group context. I got really tired of refilling my cup. These are very exciting exercises. I love these exercises. They are incredible. They're amazing. Alright, so a healing ceremony. Alright, this is a ceremony to help someone who needs to be healed. So there should be a minimum of 3 people plus the person to be healed. So this particular ceremony should not be used on someone who has a fever, nor should it be used on someone who has a minor cold or flu, as those are needed to cleanse the body of toxins due to poor living habits. So, however, when most of the cold or flu is over and the ill person is just very tired from the effects of this illness, this ceremony is effective. Alright, so it's kind of like a vitamin B12 shot. A booster, a super booster. Alright, so where'd I go? Oh, okay, so it is also good for chronic diseases. Ooh, maybe fibromyalgia. Who knows? Maybe. So, I have that under control though. Where'd I go? Okay, so the only exception to the above rule is if the cold or flu is life-threatening, like swine flu, bird flu, those kinds of things. So, okay, this ceremony will not replace the treatment of a regular physician, an MD, but an MD may need to change the treatment when a patient is found to be better or totally healed. So, never just dismiss your family physician first and foremost. Always go. It's a big mistake. A very poor decision to resort to magic. Because you don't think you need a physician, or if you don't believe in doctors or modern medicine, because a lot of people don't. I personally, yes, I do big time. If it wasn't for modern medicine and my team of doctors, I would not be alive. But I do have a little story about a guy who thought his faith would heal him. So he stopped taking all of his blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, and relied on prayer and prayer only. So what happened to that man? Ended up in the hospital, and he's worse. about died. So, yeah. The Christian God is not going to save you. No God is going to save you if you cannot go to the doctor first and help yourself. So don't anybody ever do that. So, with that being said, step 1. Have the person in your group who is most adept at doing a divination, such as with the tarot. So, do one to see if it is appropriate to do the healing. So, if not, do not do the healing. Trust the divination. So, that's the big part right there. Trust it. Step 2. So, if the answer from the divination is positive, ask the ill person if he or she freely gives permission for the group to do this healing ceremony. If the answer is no, do not go further, even if the person has previously begged for a healing. So, and the question should still be asked. If the answer is positive, prepare the area as follows. So A, form a ring of chairs with enough room allowed to walk around the outside of the circle of chairs. So there may be more chairs than people. Alright, now B. In the center should be the altar with the usual paraphernalia upon it. Another chair for the person being healed should be stationed in front of the altar facing east. Lie them down. It would just seem more, more comfortable for them if they're that sick or if they're in pain. The ill person should sit in it throughout the ceremony, especially if the person is not part of your practicing group. Others should sit in the circle of chairs as they will. So, step 3. Right, a person should be chosen to lead the relaxation ritual. So, let that person use a slow, deep, relaxing voice, almost as if trying to get a small child to fall asleep. So, don't fall asleep. Step 4. Let one person do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. The Kabbalistic cross should be done from behind the altar, facing east, which is behind me. Where'd I go? Okay, the formulation of the pentagrams should be done by walking outside the circle of chairs, so that all are enclosed. The evocation of the archangels and the repetition of the Kabbalistic cross, that should be done facing east, from behind the altar, assuming you have one, if not, from behind the person to be healed. Whew, that all came out in one big breath. It just keeps getting windier and windier. So, it is also possible to have one person do the Kabbalistic cross, another to do the formulation of the pentagrams, another to do the evocation of the archangels, and the first person repeat the Kabbalistic cross. I like to do it myself, so it would just be me. I have that one down pat, and I am planning to do the middle pillar ritual today again. So, obviously I'm sober again. Thank God. Alright, so personally I have found this to be as effective as having one person do the entire LBRP. So, but try both ways and see which you prefer. The person being healed should not be actively involved in the performance of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Okay, so also all of the members of the circle should be focusing on the ritual being performed and should add their own visualizations to the person or persons doing the ritual. No one, save the person to be healed, should ever be doing nothing within the circle once the ceremony starts. Alright, so that's very true. Step 5. Let all the ritualists, save one, come forward and form a circle, holding hands around the person to be healed. In this position, let all do the middle pillar ritual. I don't know. I'm still really worried about that one. So the one remaining ritualist should stand in the east, facing west, toward the people, also doing the middle pillar ritual, but should imagine himself or herself as being 100 feet tall, and both watching and partaking of this ritual. So just like in the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, when you're going all the way up and you have that ball of light at the top of your head. Alright, where'd I go? Oh, step 5. Right? Yes. Okay, let all the ritualists... Wait. Step 6. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, so the person in the east should hold in the right hand either a dagger for chronic or mild problems, or the wand for more severe problems. When the middle pillar ritual is complete, this person should hold up his or her arms as if in blessing and walk directly toward the circle of bodies, saying, I come in the power of light, I come in the power of wisdom, I come in the mercy of the light hath healing in its wings. That reminds me of Isis. Alright, so here is a diagram that you guys might want to screenshot, or if you have the book. That is, I don't know if I can get that to focus. Maybe if you guys could screenshot it about there, that might work. As you can tell, I'm quite tanned, sunburnt. So that is how the layout should be for this healing ritual. Obviously I have tons of bookmarks here. Alright, so step 7. So by this time he or she should be next to the circle of people. With the tool, he or she should point either toward the top of the ill person's head or toward the particular part of the body wherein lies the problem to be healed. So at this instant, all in the circle should imagine a giant, bright light above the center of the circle. This is the group Keter, rather than the individual Keter. So each ritualist should see a beam of white light shoot out toward the space of the person with the tool. When the lone ritualist feels this has been accomplished, he or she should direct this huge amount of combined group and spiritual energy down to the tool and into the body of the person being healed. Step 8. When the ritualist senses that the person under the magical tool has the energy running clearly through him or her, the ritualist should start vibrating at a very low pitch. The vowel sound A-H, ah. So ah. All, save the person being healed, should join in with the intonation of the vowel, letting it rise in pitch and volume. Now when the ritualist feels it can no longer get higher, he or she should say now, as a cue for all ritualists to shout Glah. So, G-L-A-H, it should making the sound ah, Glah. So, like in the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, ah, Glah. And clap their hands loudly, thus breaking the circle of energy. Now immediately the ritualist turns east, raises both hands, still holding the tool in the right hand, and says, Not unto me, but unto thee be the power and the glory forever. So all ritualists will vibrate Amen, and then return to their seats. Step 9. Where'd I go? Out there. The Lesser Banishing Ritual is repeated as above. So here ends the ceremony. Pretty interesting. Very interesting. So another purpose of a sudden breaking of the circle with claps and a shout is to prevent any of the energy from going back into the ritualists. Although it would not harm them, since it's positive, it would lower the power of the healing, it also prevents a negative backlash. So that'd be good. Which is frequently suffered by healers who are naturally talented but have no magical experience or knowledge. Sometimes this type of healer ends up temporarily suffering from the same symptoms as the person being healed. I get that when I try to heal, like my mom, or my dad, or a friend, or the dog. I do, literally, it's crazy. Alright, so this negative backlash is totally avoided by the techniques of the above ceremony. Now I know. Some of you may be wondering about my, associations for wand and dagger. I will have more to say about this later in this lesson. So, pretty interesting stuff. Alright, so we're going to do part 3 really quick. And this goes on to some symbols, getting into some symbolism. I have to drink my coffee. getting verklempt. No, I'm not Jewish. I wish I was. Part 3. Alright, in this section I will be sharing some ideas on symbolism, with you starting with one of the oldest and best known symbols, which is the cross. Yes, older than Christianity, for sure. The cross is far older than Christianity. It has always been revered as a spiritual and religious symbol. This is why early Christians usurped the cross as their symbol. Various non-Christian traditions had used forms of the cross far back into antiquity. By using the cross as their new symbol, it was thought that it would be easier to convince the pagans that they should worship a similar god, one who had the same symbol. In a similar fashion, pagan holy places were usurped by Christians and changed into churches, which is honestly ridiculous. So thus, if a pagan wishes to worship at a sacred site, he or she would have to go into the church and worship there. So literally, they just kind of preserved our history, but then they perverted it as well. So the earliest Christians used the symbol of a fish drawn with one continuous line to represent their faith. So, some Christians say that this is because Jesus was said to be a fisherman, although nowhere in the New Testament does it show him fishing. He just fed people with fish. Alright, so here we have the early Christian fish symbol. There, that'll be easier. Just like that. And it's pagan. It's actually pagan. So, alright, also it is said to represent Christianity because the Greek word for fish, itkos, is an acronym, or I don't know what that word is, a notarikon, whatever, for the Greek words meaning Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Savior. On an astrological basis, Jesus wasn't a fisherman, but a fishman. This is an archetype of the Piscean age. So there are many dates given from the beginning of the age of Pisces. The astrological sign is represented by 2 fish, but they are all centered around the start of the Common Era, within a few hundred years of the year 1 AD. So great charismatic leaders with large followings of sometimes mindless devotees are typical of the Piscean age. Thus, from the beginning of this age, we have had Alexander the Great, Jesus, Cromwell, some of the popes, Arthur of England, Mussolini, Hitler, Roosevelt, Kennedy, Marx, Stalin, Mayo, Falwell, Reverend Moon, Jim Jones, Gandhi, and many others. Jim Jones, what the fuck? I am not trying to educate the qualities of goodness or badness between these men, only to indicate their charisma and ability to attract a sometimes mindless following. Alright, I feel better now. Wow. So, nor should I have left out the women, such as Joan of Arc, Macpherson, Anthony, Sanger, Piran, and others. So these women, too, attracted and still attract many followers. So Jesus, as a Piscean age archetype, is perfectly represented by the symbol of the fish. One of the earliest forms of the cross was known in ancient Egypt, which is the ankh. So it had a loop at the top and was and still is known as the kru ansata, the looped cross, Isis's sandal strap, and the ankh. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting, isn't that? So there we go. Right there. I like it. I love that stuff. Alright, so many people follow a spiritual path try to ignore the inherent sexuality of the ankh. So the vertical bar represents the erect male organ, while the loop and the split horizontal bar represent the female sexual organ. So together, indicating sexual intercourse, they are a symbol of fertility. The ankh is of life and of healing, With this understanding, it is easy to see how the Ankh was evolved into a symbol of life, eternal life, reincarnation, and rebirth. Why should the sandal strap of Isis represent eternal life, as some have claimed? Why, as one group maintains, would the shadows of a person with his or her arms outstretched look like an Ankh, represent life after life? This cross is a pre-Christian and non-Christian symbol. Curiously, the Ankh is used by Roman Catholics. Very true. I've seen it myself. The pentagram. I've seen that in Catholic Church. In their robes, some church officials wear two Ankhs, one on the front and one on the back, and with a common loop. When wearing this outfit, the loop is placed over the head, which gives rise to the speculation over sexual symbolism and spirituality. Love this. Love it. In any event, the looped cross is not a Christian symbol. So, we have the Celtic cross and we have the solar cross as well. So, solar cross, Celtic cross. So, yeah, they've preserved our symbols very well. So, alright. So the ancient pagan Europeans also had crosses. One type of cross was popular, was the equal-armed cross, or the solar cross. So that actually represented the 4 cardinal directions, is what I'm gathering, and then the 4 main sabbats, or something. We'll find out as I read. So, all right. Remember, Celtic is pronounced Kel. K-E-L dash tick, T-I-K, not Celtic. It's Celtic, not Celtic. I love it when people say Celtic. I'm like, what? What do you mean? What does that mean? Alright, another form of the cross, which appeared all over Europe and in parts of North America, was the spinning solar cross, also known as the Filfo cross, the hammer of Thor, or the swastika. Alright, so the true mystical swastika is never turning. It's always, that's the Nazi one, the one that's kind of wonky looking, and then if we go over, why can't my fingers, yeah, there we go. So yeah, you guys can see that, obviously. Alright, so, I don't like the swastika, obviously. So, okay, this holy and mystical symbol was always drawn in a horizontal, vertical pattern with the arms in such a way that the cross appeared to be moving with the sun or clockwise. It is a shame that this symbol was perverted by the black magic lodges of Germany, of which Hitler was a member. In the diagram above, you can see how the Nazi swastika goes against the sun, so giving the impression of spinning in a counterclockwise direction. Note, too, that this is on a point rather than horizontal vertical. Although the Nazis did at times use the true mystical swastika, their official symbol was the perverted version, just like today's pentagram. So, today most people are disgusted with the symbol and do not separate the spiritual from the obscene. I don't personally use it. So, the purpose of the above paragraphs, besides looking at the symbolism, is to firmly implant in your mind that the rituals we do, even though in places they do not involve the symbolism of the cross, are not Christian, Nazi, or any other faith or dogma, nor are they merely de-Christianized versions of Christian symbol and ritual. If anything, it would be more correct to say that Christianity has borrowed the ancient mystical symbols for its own purposes. Thus, if you are Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, pagan, an agnostic, or something else, there should be nothing to hinder you from using the holy symbol of the cross, as in the Celtic cross tarot reading, so the Kabbalistic cross section of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and in other rituals as well. So the way we use a cross is not Christian, or perhaps I could say that it is beyond Christian. I like this. So also, symbols currently used by other traditions can be used, by those from Christian backgrounds, without insult, as they come from our universal mystical source, not a sectarian one. So, this is just really interesting stuff. I mean, I love it. The symbolism behind all this. I mean, go look at the churches next time, if you ever pass one. Look outside. Another symbol is composed of the letters INRI, and this is above the cross with Jesus, right above his head. The most famous use of these letters was supposedly on Jesus' cross. So they were an abbreviation, again, Nautaricon. So there are many of these in both the Old and New Testaments. For Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Wow, living here feels like living in the Old Testament. During the Dark Ages and into the Renaissance, if you did not want to be tortured and burned by the powers of the church, it was a wise idea to hide mystical and political ideas within Christian symbolism. So, thus, other meanings of the letters INRI developed. So, to alchemists, it stood for Igni, Nature, Renovator Integra. Latin for nature by fire is renewed in its integrity. Well, in a later lesson, I will be discussing certain aspects of alchemy, which will make this particular phrase instantly clear and of a greater magical import. So another version of these letters, which was also important to the medieval alchemists, was Igni, Nitrum, Raris, Inventium. So again, this was Latin, then the language of the learned, and meant shining or glittering is rarely found in fire. So this may be a bit more difficult to comprehend. But once a certain aspect of alchemy is explained, it should become very clear. Isn't that amazing, though? I mean, everything has been preserved for so very long. So, believe it or not, there are many people today who consider the Jesuit order to be a danger to our way of life. Personally, I don't agree with that thought, even if they do follow a leader known as the Black Pope. What? What is that? What's the Black Pope? Wouldn't that be like the anti-pope on Sabrina? I don't know. So, he is called this, he's called this not for spiritual blackness, but because black is the color of his robes. Well, that's the color of my everything almost. Also, I'm not personally a believer in conspiracy theories of world domination. Okay, yeah, that's... I don't do conspiracy theories either. So, perfect. Alright. However, the Jesuits did go through a very political period, much as some of clerics of different faiths express their political views today. When the Jesuits went through that political period, INRI, to them stood for Lusticum, or Justicum, Necer Regis Impium, which is Latin for it is just to kill an impious king. I don't like that one. I like the other versions better. And aside, I have always been fascinated by etymology, the study of where words come from. Oh, and how they were developed. I love that. The above word impious comes, of course, from pious. In the Old Testament, still the Hebrew men are told not to trim or cut their sideburns. You're not supposed to do anything. I mean, literally. In the Old Testament, the whole Bible is just a no. It's a big no. I want to do no. I want to eat no. I want to have a cup of no. My name is No. That's the song that should be the soundtrack of the Bible. No. Alright. So. Wow. Really? Sideburns. Stupid. Alright. Today still, Orthodox Jews can be seen with long sideburns. Sometimes they are even braided. Oh. Well, that's kind of cute, depending on who it is, who it's on. Alright, where'd I go? Alright, okay, they were braided, that's cute. It's considered a sign of holiness, or, piety, whatever. In fact, that's where the word pious comes from. Pious is Hebrew for sideburns. Well, I didn't know that. So, the above now makes me think about the word holy, and where it came from in ancient times, long before the birth of Christianity, or biblical Judaism. The type of religion or spiritual system followed by many people were shamanistic in nature. So, of course, it was shamanistic in nature. So part of many shamanistic cultures is the idea that a stone with a natural hole in it was considered very sacred, a hagstone, which I have many of. I love hagstones. Alright, so too were other objects with natural holes, such as seashells. From this comes the idea that one sign of a sacred object was its natural hole. A holy object was sacred. From this came our word holy. So it came from holy, as in like genes, holy genes, H-O-L-E-Y, to H-O-L-Y. So, Kabbalistically, the letters I-N-R-I represent much more. I-N-R-I, which in Hebrew would be Yud, Nun, Resh, and Yud, are also the first letters in the Hebrew for the four archetypal elements, according to J.S.M. Ward in his book Freemasonry and the Ancient Gods. Alright, so we'll go over this real quick. Alright, the English letter I, Hebrew letter Yud, Hebrew element Yam, translation water. So N, English, Hebrew Nun, Hebrew element Nor, translation fire. R, English letter R, Hebrew letter Resh, Hebrew element Rosh, and the translation is air. Now our last one, I, Yud, English letter I, Hebrew letter Yud, Hebrew element Yebeshus, translation earth. That's interesting. According to the ancient Kabbalistic document, the Sefer Yetzirah, the Hebrew letters also have astrological meanings. Alright, so English letter, the first I, and the Hebrew letter Yud, name, astrology name, Virgo. Wow. So Virgo's in there. So the letter N, Hebrew letter Nun, astrology, the name, would be Scorpio. R, the English letter, Hebrew Resh, the English or the Hebrew letter, and the astrological sign would be Sol, the sun. Now the last one, obviously, again, is the English letter I, the Hebrew letter Yud, and the astrological sign of Virgo. Wow. So that's very interesting. Alright, so for those of you who may be totally unfamiliar with astrology, let's examine briefly the meanings of these astrological signs on a very simple basis. Virgo is the pure and virginal sign of nature. Scorpio is the sign of energy, death, and transfiguration. Sol, the sun, is the source of light and life to everything on the earth. So, it is central to our lives because it is central to our solar system. So, there have been many savior gods in the history of our planet. For the Norse, it was Baldur. For the Egyptians, it was Osiris. Yes, I do believe Osiris is the original. The ancient Celts of the British Isles, it was Lug. To the Hindus, it was and is Krishna. Just as in the Christian story of the only Son of God, all of these savior gods died and came back to life for the good of humanity. So, all of these resurrection gods are associated with the sun. They die in winter, they are reborn with the warmth, and plant and animal life which appears in the spring. So unfortunately, the topic of savior resurrection gods is far too extensive to cover in depth in this book. If this topic interests you, see the books in the bibliography. So So yeah, nah. So if we were to use the Egyptian pantheon of gods, Virgo is represented by the goddess Isis, whose nature, the mother of all things. Scorpio is represented by Apophis, also known as Set or Typhon, who is death, the destroyer. Sol is represented by Osiris, who, slain and risen, was the Egyptian resurrection and vegetative deity. So since the I in the INRI formula is repeated and represents two of the magical elements, the three members of the Egyptian pantheon, Isis, Apophis, and Osiris, can represent the four archetypal elements of which everything on earth is composed. They can also represent famous thoughts of alchemy, and if you desire, they can represent some of the basic, albeit borrowed, ideas of Christianity. So, it is interesting to note that the Notarikon, the abbreviation made of the first letters of Isis, Apophis, and Osiris, IAO, pronounced I-A-O, or I-A-U, forms the name of the supreme god of the Gnostics, an early sect of Christianity. I love this. Resurrection or Redeemer gods are always associated with Sol, the sun. The sun is primary giver of light to our planet. It follows, therefore, the light is always associated with the idea of a Redeemer god. This is why beneficial or white occult groups always try to bring light, spiritual light, to mankind. So, I love this. I do. It's just incredible. So in Latin, the word for light is spelled lux. Well, it's LVX. Where does Louis Vuitton? LVX. Lux. And it's pronounced lux, with the U sounding like a tube. So, lux. Tube. I like lux. In rituals, we represent certain archetypal ideas to our psyches via poses and actions. It is easily possible to represent the idea of a spiritual lux or light by spelling it out with various gestures. So for example, L, the left arm straight out to the side horizontally with the palm forward, right arm straight up, palm to the left. Okay, and then the V would be both arms straight up over the head, forming the letter V. The palms should be facing each other. Alright, just like when I do my V for Venus. So that's pretty interesting. So the angle between the arms should be about 60 degrees. Now the X, the arms crossed on the chest, right over left, would be that. Very interesting. I'm loving this. Alright, so, alright guys, we will finish off tomorrow with a little more on this, and then we will go on to the hexagrams, which is actually very interesting, very fun. So, I hope you guys enjoy. Everybody have a good day. Stay dry if it's raining where you are. But, alright guys, I love you all. Thank you guys for watching. All my love, all the way from Venus, all the way back down. So, I will see you guys tomorrow. So I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you for watching.